Hey everybody, good morning. This is Dave Grant with Real Estate Broker Today. Let's see, today's Monday the 21st, so we've got a little bit of a short week. But I wanted to talk today about how to get your listings more exposure and sold in today's market. So I can't tell you how many times we've got any questions right now from my agents in my office, my coaching clients, like, what are some of the challenges you're facing? It's like, how to get my listing sold. So one of the things we need to focus on in today's real estate market is, you know what, it's not the market we were in, 8 months ago, 18 months ago, where you put a listing in the MLS and you get, 20 offers in the first 2 days. We are moving back into normalcy, if you will, and we need to market and sell our listings. We're gonna have to work for our business now. Again, maybe you've heard me say this before. I actually like moving into a market shift because what it does is it forces agents to really up their game and their skill set. And the agents that have gotten into it kind of part time or, what I call maybe, half ass, if you will, sorry for the language, uh, the market will discipline them and those agents will move on into other careers and other paths. And the agents that are willing to do the work, become the knowledge broker, have a solid plan, are going to be the ones that are going to be able to give them that differentiation in the marketplace. So we have to work. So let's talk about listings really quick. It starts with the correct list price out of the gate. Now, I know a lot of times we look and get to go to meet a prospective seller, and maybe we have a price in mind, maybe they have a price in mind. If you are taking overpriced listings in today's market, you are setting yourself up for failure. You're setting your client up for failure and frustration. You're going to spend more time and energy talking to that client like, why isn't my home selling? Why are we not getting showings? And you're just, right from the get-go. So you've got to make sure that you're doing your homework and you understand the market, the zip code, right? Because we have a generalized market here in Las Vegas, and then we have more of a hyper local, right? More of a very specific zip code or area. And within that grand scheme of Las Vegas, there's going to be certain zip codes and areas that are moving faster than others. So you've got to understand the dynamics of what's happening in that market. And when I say the dynamics, I like to do a couple of things, right? I like to say, hey, let's look at in today's market, I'm looking at the last 90 days to 6 months maximum, right? Like, what has been selling? What has been the closed price? Has there been any seller concessions? And then I'm comparing apples to apples with my clients right now, right? We're literally looking at all of the solds, going through every photo to say, hey, is this house, inferior, superior, or the same as? And then we're really looking at pricing. So how many are on the market currently? That's your competition. What's been going on with the solds? Then you need to have a solid plan of how you're going to market that property, and here's the pricing. If the seller is not, in alignment with your thought process for selling, and this is what the list price should be, and they want to list it higher and higher than what you believe is the correct price, this is what I believe you need to do. I believe you need to come to an agreement with that seller. And maybe that sounds something like this, where you're like, okay, Mr. Seller, I believe your property, is going to bear a price of $525,000 in today's market based on all the data and the comps that we've looked at and your competition out there. I understand you want to list your property at 560. Okay, so we're talking about a $35,000 difference there. I'm not in the business of just listing homes because it's not going to help you as a seller get you from A to B. And it's going to take a lot of time and energy for me to market the property at a high price that's not really within the ballpark, and we're going to be constantly chasing the market. So why don't we do this? Now again, this is only if they're dead set saying, no, this is, if you're not going to list it at this price, I'm not going to give you the listing. And I know we don't like to turn listings down, right? Although I have, uh, and you should too. But what we want to try to get the seller to do is this: say, hey, here's what we're going to do. I'll list it at the 560, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller. However, within the first 2 weeks of being on the market, if we're not getting showings, or the showings we're getting, they're talking about, oh, prices are super, price is super high, you're overvalued. If we're not getting the activity, getting the prices that we want, then you and I will agree to have a strategic pricing conversation about getting your price down to where it needs to be so we can get you moving and get going. Does that sound reasonable? And they say, yes, that sounds great. Then a lot of times I'll even break out an addendum, or in our Las Vegas market, it's called an MLS change order, that maybe we post date it, right? For, hey, we're going to take the price from here to here on such and such date, and then the seller will sign that when we get to that point, right? Now I know I've got a seller who's respecting my opinion as a professional. I've got a seller who's reasonable and looking to get their property sold. If they're not willing to do that, then you're probably setting yourself up for failure, the seller up for failure, and then you probably should just say, hey, you know what, Mr. Mrs. Seller, I would really love to work with you. Unfortunately, I don't believe that that's going to be a value that we're going to be able to attain on this property. With the market data and the information we have, I'm going to have to respectfully decline taking your listing and move on to the next one. Okay, because the time and energy you're going to waste on that, you can go out and find other sellers that are going to respect your opinion, respect the market data you're providing, and you can move on and get other transactions. All right, so now we've got a listing signed, right? We want to make sure that we're doing the most we can to market the property. And whatever your marketing strategy is what your marketing strategy is. Here at our brokerage, at ERA Brokers Consolidated, we take a lot of the guesswork out for our agents. We want you to do what you do best, which is talk to buyers and sellers, right? So we have on-staff photographers that go out and do your photography for you, 3D Matterport tours, drone aerial photography. They do all of this for you at no cost for you as an agent within our brokerage. They come back, all your photography gets uploaded into our system. We create a custom website for you. We create a social media campaign that blasts out your listing social media. So those are some of the things that we do to kind of jump start, your listing. We create a website. They can review if there's any open house times, want to submit an offer. It includes the photography, description, all the 3D Matterport tours, right? And then where do you take it from there, right? Are you circle dialing? Are you sending out direct mail postcards? Maybe you're doing a social media Google ad campaign to where you're getting this listing out into the geographic areas of where we know buyers are moving to your local, market from, right? We also provide that to you as an agent within our company. It's called a market demand snapshot. And basically it helps you get the listing out in front of the folks from the geographic locations that we know are moving to Las Vegas, right? Reverse prospecting tool in the MLS, right? Making sure that gets out to every agent that has a search that's saved. They're gonna, if somebody hearted it, liked it, you're gonna get it out to them. You're gonna get that out to them every time there's a change on that listing. There's a price reduction. There's some concessions, etc. Okay. And you're gonna follow up with showing feedback on every single showing. Okay, we want to get that. I know sometimes agents don't respond to the showing time request. You need to text, you need to call, you need to be proactive in getting that feedback back. Okay. The next thing you want to make sure that you're doing as well is when I've got the listing, right, we're pre-qualifying buyers. Okay. We want to make sure that that buyer who's going into that property is a bona fide buyer, number one. Okay. When we do get a bona fide buyer and they write an offer on the property, we want to make sure, depending on what their loan program is, that they're going to provide your buyer or your seller proof of funds, right, for down payment, closing cost, so that we know that they can actually close the transaction. So last thing I want to talk about is price reductions. I just come across my desk all day long. Price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. What you have to understand is we are not necessarily in a market where price reductions will always get it done, right? It's an affordability issue going on right now. So what we want to do is we want to be strategic in getting the price to where it needs to be. But the impact of offering a concession to a buyer where they can maybe buy the rate down, offset some closing costs, is going to be more impactful on the affordability than a straight price reduction. And in a lot of instances, your seller is going to benefit more from that because there could be possibly some tax deductions with contributing costs as a cost of doing business as just opposed to a straight price reduction, right? So an example is this. So an agent in my office had a listing. It was listed at $449, and the seller said, "Hey, let's get this thing, sold. Let's blow it out. Let's reduce it down to $429." So $429 was a good price. However, I talked to my agent. We talked to the seller, and I said, "Hey, instead of going from $449 all the way down to that $429, at 20 grand, why don't we go down 10 grand, get under that $440 threshold, but let's offer $10,000 to the buyer's cost to close." And ultimately that worked like a charm because within a couple of days we got it. And the buyer they got was a very well qualified FHA buyer with a 3.5% down payment. But if you're at $439,000, you've got a 3.5% down payment, right? So you're talking $17,000, $18,000 down, and then you've got another $12,000 to $18,000 closing cost. So you're talking $30,000 to $35,000. This particular buyer had their down payment money, had about 7 grand of their closing cost money they needed, but by that $10,000 concession, not only did it close the gap to get the rest of their costs covered, but they could use some of that money and bought down their rate. That made that buyer a bona fide buyer now by helping them with that cost, right? So you could potentially open the door to a wider buyer pool by offering some of those costs, helping the affordability, helping them get over the hump, if you will, on the closing cost. So today, again, it's Monday the 21st, short week. Everybody have a great, happy Thanksgiving. Lots of gratitude. Be thankful to your friends, your family, everybody that you have in your life. Sometimes we get so busy with work and things going on, we kind of forget the small things, right? A lot of you may not know, I've got a brand new baby at home, 3 months old. Yeah, I know you're saying, "Oh my gosh, you're old to have a baby." Well, you know what? It was a blessing from God, and it's a blessing. Absorb every day, right? I've got 2 older children, a daughter 21, a son who's 16. Every morning, every night, I'm always touching base with them. I'm so grateful and thankful for that. I'm grateful and thankful for the opportunity to reach out to you and hopefully make an impact in your life and your business, right? So again, if you guys have any questions or need anything, you know how to get in touch with me. Next week, the 29th and 30th, I'm doing my business plan workshop. If you want to participate in that, email me, text me, call, whatever the case may be. I'll get you the Zoom information, or you can even come to the classroom live, okay? Hey, have a great rest of your week and be thankful.